Morning guys, on Proverbs 31, reading from verse 21 to the end. So we're ending off Proverbs today, looking at the virtuous woman. 21 says, "She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet." And this virtuous woman in Proverbs is always industrious. She's got jobs, she's bringing in money, and so she's looking after her home. And she's not clothing her house in scarlet. That's not just poor clothes. She's made a bit of money for herself and for her family, so she's able to actually put decent clothes on. Then it says in verse 22, she makes covering for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Again, even for herself, she puts nice clothes on, but not a woman mustn't dress she must be modest in her dress and not too much gold and things like that, as the Bible says. But she must also be dressed nicely for her husband. She mustn't. So there's a balance here. She's looking after herself. She's making herself look nice, but she's not going overboard with her clothing and her makeup and jewelry and that. Verse 23, her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders. And so a good husband is known by a good wife. And so a good wife actually makes a good husband. And so when she's honoring her husband and she's caring for her husband and she's being hospitable and having people in the home, automatically he now also gets the respect and is known by the elders of the land. Verse 24, she makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies belts to the tradesmen. And so her love and her provision and her help, first and primarily, is for her husband and then for her children, but also to the tradesmen and to people around her. And so she's industrious, and there's a blessing that overflows from the home to the tradesmen. And so we see that the poor and needy in verse 20, we see her household cared for in verse 21, herself in 22, her husband in 23, and here in verse 24, the tradesmen. Verse 25, strength and dignity are her clothing, and she smiles at the future. And because God has blessed her hands and she's prepared for the winter, she's not in fear. She fears God, but she doesn't fear the future because she's planned for the future. She's stored up for the future. And so she smiles at the future. Verse 26, she opens her mouth in wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. And the virtuous woman is not only outwardly looks nice, but her main thing is she's inwardly a kind person, inwardly opening her hands in her house to the poor. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. She's not lazy. She's not a gossiper. She gets up early, she works hard. Verse 29, many daughters have done nobly, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. It's interesting how we start Proverbs with the fear of the Lord and the importance of fearing the Lord. That's the beginning of the wisdom. And now at the end of Proverbs, we're ending again with the example of the virtuous woman who fears the Lord. Her inner character is being transformed by the Lord. It's not about the outward beauty, but it's about her love and the fear of the Lord that's so important. And because of that, she shall be praised. Give her the product of her hands, and let her words praise her in the gates. Amen.